Worried a new DeepSeek Harness plugin will break your setup? Test it in a separate profile. A plugin that works once is not ready for your everyday configuration. One experimental layer can change tools, models, or startup behavior. A separate profile makes the before and after state visible. It also gives you a cleaner exit when the test fails. In August 2026, DeepSeek AI documented profile startup and configuration precedence. The design keeps each plugin combination in its own directory and exposes the final composition for inspection. The project remains a developer preview, and compatibility may break. Attention does not prove quality, performance, security, reliability, or production maturity. This episode does not repeat plugin selection or activation diagnosis. It shows how to isolate one test and read the 4-layer precedence order. First, treat a profile as one independent plugin and configuration combination. That is the only new concept needed here. Each profile has its own directory. It holds dependencies, an ordered bundle list, and one profile-specific patch. Your daily profile can stay untouched. The experimental profile receives only the plugin under review. This separates dependency and startup configuration changes. A failed test no longer requires repairing the daily combination first. A profile is not a complete security sandbox. It does not automatically isolate workspace files, environment variables, network access, or external services. The machine-level home patch also applies above every profile. Inspect that shared layer before you call the test isolated. Use two boundaries together. The profile isolates configuration, while test data and test credentials isolate external effects. Chapter Recap. First, a profile holds separate dependencies and configuration. Second, experimental plugins stay outside the daily profile. Third, files and external services still need their own isolation. Now use one minimal example. Assume you already have a profile for everyday work. Create a clearly named experimental profile, such as Plugin Lab. Its name should never look like production. Add one candidate package to Plugin Lab. Test only one plugin so multiple changes cannot hide each other. Before startup, dump the default configuration. That output contains only bundle layers and becomes your baseline. Then dump the final configuration. It adds the profile patch, home patch, and temporary overlays. Place both outputs side by side. Mark only the rows introduced or replaced by the candidate. Finally, start Plugin Lab and run one read-only check. Keep the daily profile unchanged throughout the test. Chapter Recap. First, create a clearly named experimental profile. Second, add only one candidate plugin. Third, compare configuration before running a low-risk check. Next, follow only the 4-layer order. It explains where the final configuration came from. Bundle layers form the bottom. They apply in the same order as the profile manifest list. The profile's own patch comes next. It belongs only to this experimental combination. The home patch follows. It carries machine-wide preferences, so it outranks the profile patch. Temporary command overlays come last. Multiple overlays continue in command line order. On the same row, a later layer wins. A layer can also insert a row that did not exist below it. When a test looks wrong, inspect from the top down. Check the temporary overlay before the home and profile layers. Chapter Recap. First, ordered bundles establish the base. Second, the shared home patch sits above the profile patch. Third, temporary overlays apply last. Now handle the easiest mistake to make. A targeted rows config is not deep merged key by key. Suppose a bundle row defines a model, timeout, and retry value. You only want a different timeout in the profile. If the later layer contains only timeout, it replaces the complete config. The model and retry fields may disappear with it. Restate every field you intend to keep. Then change the one value that belongs to this experiment. Temporary overlays follow the same rule. Their short lifetime does not make partial config replacement safe. Valid profile and home patch edits can reload live. A bundle membership change still requires a profile restart. If parsing or loading fails, the last good tree keeps running. Save the first failure instead of adding another change. Chapter Recap. First, a targeted config is replaced as a whole. Second, later layers must restate the fields they keep. Third, bundle changes require restart evidence. Finally, turn the mechanism into 3 steps. Leave inspectable evidence after every one. Record the expected rollback before you start. Step 1. Create the experimental profile. Prepare a test workspace, test data, and minimum privilege credentials too. Step 2. Add one candidate plugin. Save the bundle baseline and final composition, then highlight changed rows. Save that expected state beside the 2 configuration exports. Step 3. Use one temporary overlay for a low-risk check. Do not connect a real project or valuable account first. If the check passes, decide whether to promote each setting. Never copy an unknown full configuration into daily work. If it fails, remove the candidate layer. Restart and confirm that the final composition returned to the expected state. Remember that the home patch is shared. Seeing it in the lab does not mean it leaves the daily profile untouched. Screenshot the new plugin isolation test steps and reuse it next time. Chapter Recap. First, isolate configuration and external effects separately. Second, change one plugin and one layer at a time. Third, promote settings only after the comparison passes. Worried a new DeepSeek Harness plugin will break your setup? Test it in a separate profile. Create an experimental profile, then compare bundle, profile, home, and temporary overlay layers. When the same row changes, remember that config replacement is whole row, not deep merge. The project remains a developer preview, and compatibility may break. A profile is not a complete security sandbox, and attention does not prove production maturity. Which isolation step would you add to your test? Comment below. Follow Tiny Agent. Tiny Agent helps you get better at using AI.